Alright, so everyone wants to do well when playing Fantasy Premier League, but there are plenty of things that can go wrong. And with that in mind, I'm Joe from Fantasy Football Manager, and these are the top 5 mistakes that people make when playing Fantasy Premier League. Now, in at number 5 is simply giving up. If you set up a team in August and don't make any transfers throughout the year, then you're probably going to fail. So that's one mistake that people make. Don't do that. Not planning ahead. So what I mean by this, you only have a limited number of transfers you can make every week without taking something which we'll get to in a sec. But basically, if you don't look at the fixtures beforehand, before you set up your team, think about like 3 in advance. You'll end up with players that, yes, they have a juicy fixture one week, but then the next 2, they really do struggle. Maybe there's a defender who has really good chance of keeping the clean sheet one week, but the next 2 weeks they're up against some of the top teams in the league, and then your team fails because you didn't plan ahead. And leading on from not planning ahead will be mistake number 3, which is taking point hits. Now, I was very guilty of this last season. Anyone who watched any of my previous videos will know I took far too many points hits last season, ended up costing me I don't even know how many points overall, and already then you're starting the game week -4, -8 or even more based on your lack of planning and taking those point hits. So recommendation would be just to stick with it. Try not to take any point hits if you can, unless they're absolutely necessary. And by necessary, I mean if you don't have 11 players starting, then that's where it might be time to take a point hit. Otherwise, avoid them at all costs. And speaking of transfers, mistake number 2 is to go gung-ho with your transfers. So what I mean by this is that if you see someone who's performed really well one week, you may then bring them in during the game week. That's probably a big mistake due to the fact that they may well get injured. And again, going back to the planning ahead, they may not have the most favourable fixtures. So I'm thinking things like when Callum Wilson scored a hat-trick for Bournemouth one week, you may well have seen a big spike in transfers in on him, but following up, they had some tough games and he didn't quite perform up to that same level. So avoiding those gung-ho bandwagon transfers. And I've even seen it where someone has performed one week really well and people bring him in. People think, oh, it was Ross Barkley scored twice, but the next week he didn't even play due to the fixture list. So that's one mistake you want to avoid if you're going to succeed at Fantasy Premier League. And number 1, my biggest mistake throughout the whole season last year, dodgy captain picks. Now, captain picks such as Jolien Lescott, Cameron Jerome, they're all on me. I took a risk, I took a gamble, and those definitely didn't pay off. And it's one of my biggest mistakes throughout all of last season, hoping to rectify that in 2016-17, but we'll see. And that's my list. Comment below if you have any other mistakes that you think people make consistently in Fantasy Premier League. Again, this is the channel where we talk about Fantasy Premier League, hopefully throughout the whole season if I can get to make more videos. So share ideas, share your mistakes, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can here. I've been Joe for Fantasy Football Manager, and I'll see you soon.